ඔෆිස් එකේදී විතරක් නෙවෙයි මම දැන් ගෙදරදීත් IDD calls ගන්න SLT phone එකේ.
ඔබේ නිවසේ SLT දුරකථනය දැන් IDD පහසුකම සහිතයි.
Making headlines on First at 9. After a hiatus, the second sessions of the 8th Parliament commences. The President highlights the need for social and political maturity in the national government. New surroundings. The group of 16 takes their place in the opposition. Expediting justice. Judicature Amendment draft bill set to be taken up in Parliament tomorrow.
The Honourable CJ thinks that any case that could be taken up on this special High Court, he has the discretion.
Trying times. Opposition leaders' position questioned.
We think that a constructive first step is to make a change with regard to the position of the leader of the opposition.
Nowhere to hide. New York State Attorney General resigns following allegations of physical abuse by 4 women.
A very good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chan. On to your top story tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena today ceremoniously inaugurated the second session of the 8th Parliament. In his inauguration address, the head of state said that although a national government was hatched in 2015, the political and social maturity required for it is yet to be achieved. In line with the power vested on the President by the Constitution of 1978, President Maithripala Sirisena prorogued the first session of the 8th Parliament on the 12th of last month through a Gazette notification. He announced the 8th of May, which falls today, as the date for commencement of the second session of Parliament. Accordingly, the opening ceremony of the second session of the 8th Parliament got underway this afternoon with the arrival of President Maithripala Sirisena, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the Speaker Karu Jayasuriya.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා ප්‍රජාතාන්ත්‍රික සමාජවාදී ජනරජයේ ගරු ජනාධිපති මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මැතිතුමා පාර්ලිමේන්තු සංකීර්ණයට සම්ප්‍රාප්ත වනවා.
This was followed by the national anthem, a guard of honour and a 21-gun salute. The President was received at the main steps of the Parliament building by the Speaker and the Secretary-General of Parliament. After ringing the quorum bell, all members of Parliament took to their seats in the chamber and the Secretary-General of Parliament read out the proclamations issued by the President, proroguing the Parliament and summoning the meeting. The President then addressed the Parliament.
History shows us that a transformational era is unpopular with hardship. Honourable Speaker, what the entirety of Sri Lanka is calling for is the self-defence of the nation and the future against bribery, corruption and profligacy. This new session should be considered as an opportunity to achieve these expectations. I make evident that our country is not at a stage where political and other factions should test their might, but as a stage where challenges lying before the country should be overcome together. For this to be a reality, the battle for power between parties of the national government and the tussle between the government and the opposition should be alleviated. There are criticisms levelled against this government by various factions, and the government is vigilant about them with humility, and the government is also engaged in self-critique. The independence of institutions implementing the rule of law is already ensured, but there is criticism over lack of action against some large-scale fraudsters at large. All should act as one, considering this to be the last opportunity to rise as a country. Honourable Speaker, we should defeat the acquaintance-friendly economy we have seen and develop a public-friendly economy. Furthermore, a paradigm to take political decisions based on equality to create true reconciliation should be introduced. I believe the provincial council system should be strengthened to that end. Whatever the criticism may be, a political process which will permanently alleviate the unrest of the people in the north and the east is required. Although we physically defeated the terrorists, their ideology is yet to be defeated. The revolution, which I gave leadership to in 2015, is still not complete. It was a new experience, and the manifestations within the last 3 years highlight that the social and political maturity required for it is yet to be achieved. The national government consists of political parties with diverging views. If they should operate as the Vajji Confederacy highlighted by the Lord Buddha, championing unity and discussion, we too should act as they did in every aspect. I strongly believe that it will be the cause of victory for both the country and the people.
In the meantime, the group of 16 parliamentarians of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party who stepped down from their positions in the national government sat in the opposition during today's parliamentary session.
A group of 16 parliamentarians of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party who resigned from their ministerial positions crossed over and sat in the opposition in Parliament prior to the commencement of today's session. They had requested the Secretary of the Parliament to reserve them seating in the opposition, and 16 seats are reserved for them to the right of the Speaker. Meanwhile, 11 of the group called on the Chief Prelate of the Amarapura sect, Aggamaha Pandita, Most Venerable Kutugoda Dhammawasa Thera, at the Dharmapala Rama Temple in Mount Lavinia this morning. In the meantime, there was a march towards Parliament from the Parliament roundabout in support of the group of 16 parliamentarians who sat in the opposition. Police, however, put barriers to stop the march. The group of 16 later arrived at the scene and addressed their supporters.
We will continue this struggle until a progressive government led by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is established. Those who promised to make this a new country within 50 days destroyed the central bank. We dare Ranil Wickremesinghe to touch the Samurdhi Bank. 1.5 million people of this country will surround temple trees and send them all home. We are not UNPs. We should get together for a struggle to unite the progressive parties. If it's the secretaries of the parties who hindered that, we ask them to resign and hand the party over to us.
Minister of Justice and Prison Reforms Talatatu Korala says that the Judicature Amendment draft bill will be taken up in Parliament tomorrow. The bill will provide provisions to set up a permanent High Court at Bar to try, hear and determine the trials pertaining to offences of bribery and corruption. During a media briefing today, the Minister was questioned on the impact of the bill should it come to fruition on cases currently pending in High Courts.
The amendment in the Schedule 6 lists the offences that can be tried under this.
Yeah.
Is this what happens to the current cases that are in High Courts, in the District High Courts? If this falls to this jurisdiction, how does that work? What is the exact jurisdiction of this Special High Court?
The Honourable CJ thinks that any case that could be taken up on this Special High Court, he has the discretion over anything that is mentioned in this Act, any offence. So some are under the Penal Code, and then some are under the Bribery Act.
If the judges know that their actions, that they are accountable for their decisions, and that at the end of the day there will be some audit of what they are doing, then they will also be a little more careful. Now what we are saying is that very blatantly judges are giving different orders, and as Honourable Rajesh Sanratna said, you can look at the bench and say, well, this is going to be the decision. So it has come to that very sorry state. So
yeah, but now, right now, you can't say anything about that to this present government. Of course, we have had past experience with appointments like that, but not now.
The minister was also questioned on the current status of the investigation with regards to the Valikara prison riot in 2012. According to the Nambuwasam committee report headed by former High Court Judge Vimal Nambuwasam, it was recommended that 6 high-ranking officials previously attached to the Ministry of Defence, the State Intelligence Service, the Prison Department and the 6th Gajaba Regiment of the Army be prosecuted in relation to the incident.
It's something, it's still at the investigation level. That's why they have, you are referring to Valikara incident. So there are few who have been taken into custody. But it will take little time for the Aegis department to serve indictment after going through this commission report, and also the CID will have to further submit another report. It's at that level.
It's gone up to the commissioner level. Yeah. So it might now go up to other higher levels because none of those people were interested about those assassinations.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka Polujana Perumuna, Professor G.L. Pyrrhus, is adamant that a change must be done to the position of the opposition leader in Parliament and pave the way for its immediate dissolution. Speaking to First at 9, he said that the leader of the opposition, R. Sambandhan, failed to raise his voice with respect to any matter other than issues pertaining to northern and eastern provinces over the past 3 years.
President Rajapaksa said that he is prepared to give leadership to the struggle against financial terrorism, the crippling burden of taxation, the cost of living. Now, as a first step towards that, we think that there should be a change with regard to the office of the leader of the opposition. Mr. Sambandhan consistently supported the budgets of this government 3 consecutive years without proposing a single amendment. When a no-confidence motion was brought against Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, he did everything he could to protect the Prime Minister. He has failed during the last 3 years to raise his voice in respect of any matter other than those pertaining to the northern and the eastern provinces. But even within that area, the popularity of the Tamil National Alliance has significantly diminished. In all these circumstances, it is very clear that the legitimate voice of the opposition is that of the joint opposition. Therefore, this anomaly, this tremendous distortion needs to be corrected, and that is a first step towards creating public opinion within Parliament. Because in terms of the 19th Amendment, Parliament can be dissolved. It requires a resolution that is supported by a 2/3 majority in Parliament. And in order to make that happen, we think that a constructive first step is to make a change with regard to the position of the leader of the opposition and pave the way for an early and immediate dissolution of Parliament to give the public of this country the chance to elect a government of their choice that is capable of grappling with the burning issues of the day.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara today gave the latest in the case where the Golden Peacock Lifetime Award given to late Dr Lester James Pyrrhus was stolen during his funeral. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo, the police media spokesperson also shed light on the recent fire which erupted in the record room at the Bandarawala Magistrates Court.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara today spoke on the latest in the investigation on the theft of the Golden Peacock Lifetime Award, a medal awarded to late Dr Lester James Pyrrhus, which went missing during his funeral. He said that among the 6 suspects arrested are 3 well-known suspects with a criminal history. He highlighted one of them in particular and said that the suspect was registered as a criminal back in 1977 and has been found guilty in 7 previous cases of theft. Meanwhile, SP Ruwan Gunasekara also touched on the fire which broke out at the record room of the Bandarawala Magistrates Court on the 30th last month, causing damages to the documents. The police media spokesperson added that the suspect was arrested near the Maharagama level crossing on the 6th and he had 11 cases filed against him at the Bandarawala Magistrates Court alone. He went on to say that the suspect was found guilty in one of the cases, which is carrying a prison term.
The Combined Association of Unemployed Graduates engaged in a protest in Colombo today as well, demanding employment opportunities. The police, however, used water cannons to disperse the protesters at the Lotus roundabout, preventing them reaching the presidential secretariat. The Combined Association of Unemployed Graduates staged a protest in Colombo today, demanding jobs to graduates as promised by the government.
We are talking to the President and the Prime Minister of the Good Governance regime. We were promised employment opportunities within 6 months, but 3 years have passed. We will not end our struggle until those promises are turned into realities.
The protests commenced near the Colombo Fort railway station and later made its way towards the presidential secretariat. Lotus Road was closed for traffic from Ceramic Junction due to the protest march. Riot police used high-pressure water cannons to disperse protesters near the Lotus roundabout in Colombo. Even after the use of water cannons, protesters remained at the scene, but later they moved to the Lake House roundabout, leading to traffic congestion. However, police allowed 4 of them to meet an official from the presidential secretariat. They returned from discussions saying it failed and made their way towards Parliament. They gathered in front of the entry road to Parliament and later dispersed. Railway trade unions have decided to postpone their planned strike action, which was scheduled to be launched for midnight. They say that the strike is postponed until noon tomorrow, following a request made by the committee appointed to look into their grievances. Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union says it will commence a work to rule campaign from midnight tonight. The campaign is launched due to a protracted dispute between the CEB and the Public Utilities Commission over the country's long-term power generation plan. Now let's take a look at some of the stories making news across Sri Lanka. A motorcycle accident that took place by the 7th kilometre post along the Bibila Madagama road claimed the life of a 17-year-old student of Nannapura Mahavidyalaya in Munaragala. A bus driving towards Colombo from Hambantota met with an accident near the port in Galle, causing minor injuries to its driver. A 17-year-old girl lost her life while travelling by a motorcycle with another youth when it went down a precipice in the area of Ratmalkanda in Panduwas Nuwara. The 18-year-old youth who sustained injuries from the accident was transferred to the Colombo National Hospital. 2 Sri Lankan women were arrested at the Bandaranayake International Airport in Katunayaka today for attempting to smuggle 1.1 kilograms of gold into the country. Police said that the suspects who arrived from Singapore this morning were arrested by officers of the Police Narcotics Bureau at the airport. The seized gold is estimated to be worth around 10 million rupees. The police has taken a woman wearing a sari with a print that resembles Lord Buddha into custody. Upon finding out that she bought the sari for 1,500 rupees from a shop, Haddon police searched the shop and discovered that the item is imported from India.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. First Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Serbia, Ivica Dacic, called on Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at the Temple Trees yesterday. During discussions, Premier Wickremesinghe has stated that it is time to sharpen the old connections with the former Yugoslavian countries, including Serbia. The Serbian Foreign Minister said Serbia too hopes to strengthen those old relations as a nation of the former Yugoslavia. The need and opportunities to nurture relationships between private sectors as well as the state sectors were also discussed at the meeting. According to the Prime Minister's office, an agreement on enabling travel between the two countries without a visa permit was also discussed during the meeting. Today is World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day. Sri Lanka Red Cross Society held its official celebration under the theme Alleviate Suffering of the Vulnerable and Make Them Smile at Aranayaka in Kegol today.
The Sri Lanka Red Cross Society celebrated World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day with various activities across the country. The main event took place at Aranayake in Kegul under the patronage of President of the Sri Lanka Red Cross Society, Jagat Abesinghe. A march to symbolise the World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day commenced from the town of Aranayake to its office of the Ministry of Health. During the event, gifts were presented to children who were affected by the Aranayake landslide, which claimed the lives of over 100 people in the May of 2016. Each year, the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement reached more than 160 million people through a network of around 12 million volunteers and 450,000 staff globally.
Today is 8th of May, the birthday of Henry Dunant, founder of the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. Today in Kegal we are celebrating the Red Cross Red Crescent Day with Sri Lankan Red Cross and the Federation.
The aim of Red Cross is to serve for the most vulnerable people in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, we are celebrating this in 25 administrative districts, in 25 offices in Sri Lanka Red Cross Society.
Secretary of the Sri Lanka Bar Association, Kaushalya Navaratne, says that the Bar Association of Sri Lanka has decided to challenge the free trade agreement signed by the government with Singapore by filing an action in the Supreme Court to have it nullified. Speaking to First at 9, he said that the decision was taken since the said free trade agreement has severe impacts on professions such as lawyers, doctors, engineers, those working in the IT sector and other fields.
The government of Sri Lanka has entered into a free trade agreement with the Singapore government, and we have managed to obtain a copy of the agreement, and we have studied the agreement, and we have found that the conditions contained in the agreement is detrimental to the interest of many professions and professionals in Sri Lanka. And we have found out that the government, in terms of the said free trade agreement, the government has liberalized the services rendered by the legal professionals, wherein the government has given permission to Singaporean nationals and the PR holders to come and discharge their duties in the territory of Sri Lanka. It is our considered view that having considered certain other conditions contained in the said free trade agreement, it is detrimental to the best interest of the legal profession, and therefore the Bar Association of Sri Lanka has taken a decision to challenge the said agreement, and we have already filed an action in the Supreme Court today, seeking an order from their lordships of the Supreme Court to have the said free trade agreement nullified. At the same time, there are several other petitions that have been tendered to the lordship of the Supreme Court by several other professionals such as engineers, the medical practitioners, IT professionals and several other professions, since the conditions contained in the said agreement will have severe impact on the professionals in Sri Lanka.
Russia is among the top countries to export Ceylon tea. In 2017 alone, the country was the second highest importer of tea, with exports amounting to over $173 million. Director of Impra Tea Exports and Chairman of the Tea Exporters Association, Sri Lanka, Jayanta Karunaratne, says that it is important to share the knowledge and know-how of Ceylon tea production to countries such as Russia in order to promote the value of Ceylon tea. Imperial Teas Group hosted a Russian delegation comprising of over 50 distributors and partners of Impra Tea Exports in Valigama last evening. The annual event aims to create awareness on the production and packaging of Ceylon tea. A Russian group of distributors and partners of Impra Tea Exports arrived in the island recently. The annual event aims to share the knowledge and know-how of the Ceylon tea industry to Russia. During their visit, participants were involved in seminars, workshops and familiarization visits. Impra Tea Exports have over 30 distributors of Ceylon tea across Russia.
It's the managers and directors of companies who distribute Impra tea all over Russia. It's maybe 30 or 35 regions all over Russia, It's very good experience for Russian people to see Sri Lanka. It's a beautiful land, and also it's very interesting for everybody to see how is tea growing, Ceylon tea, baking and producing before they ship to Russia.
You know, in Russia it's very traditional that they drink Ceylon tea, and they like Ceylon tea very much. People in Russia wants tea more than their food. So they have never seen tea plantation. So this experience, they are very happy about the culture, about the people, and about the friendliness of people in Sri Lanka. And we hope they will take with them the memories of Sri Lanka, so that will give good mileage for Sri Lanka and also for Ceylon tea.
China's foreign trade totaled 9.11 trillion yuan in the first 4 months of 2018, up 8.9% over the same period of last year. According to GSC data, China's foreign trade with major trading partners continued to increase, especially the import and export with countries along the route of Belt and Road. China's trade with countries along the Belt and Road route reached 2.51 trillion yuan, rising by 11.6%, with the growth rate 2.7 percentage points higher than that of the overall foreign trade. The all-share price index ended 0.33% weaker at 6,485.57 today, marking its lowest since 12th of April. The turnover stood at 601.6 million rupees, less than this year's daily average of 1.03 billion rupees. Let's cross over to Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for a detailed report.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 3,028.01 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 308.24 million rupees and foreign sales were 207.32 million rupees. There were 8 crossings today and the crossing turnover was 365.24 million rupees.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On international news tonight, New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman resigned following allegations of physical abuse by 4 women were reported in an article in the New Yorker magazine. Governor Andrew Cuomo called for Schneiderman's resignation within hours of the article's publication. In the article published late yesterday, the New Yorker reported that 4 women who said they had romantic relationships or encounters with New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman said they had been subjected to non-consensual physical violence. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo called for Schneiderman's resignation within hours of the article's publication. Schneiderman moved to release a statement saying that he strongly contests the serious allegations made against him. He added that while these allegations are unrelated to his professional conduct or the operations of the office, they will effectively prevent him from leading the office's work at this critical time, and therefore he would resign from office effective at the close of business on the 8th of May. In a statement issued by a public relations firm, Schneiderman went on to say that in the privacy of intimate relationships, he had engaged in role-playing and other consensual sexual activity and insisted he had not assaulted anyone. He said he never engaged in non-consensual sex and identified it as a line which he would not cross. Former world number 1 Novak Djokovic found some form in the Madrid Open yesterday as he beat Japan's Kei Nishikori. There were also wins for Canadian Milos Raonic and Frenchman Benoit Paire earlier in the day.
Former world number 1 Novak Djokovic showed signs of a return to form with an impressive 7-5, 6-4 victory over Japan's Kei Nishikori in the opening round of the Madrid Open yesterday. Following early exits in Barcelona, Monte Carlo, Miami and Indian Wells, 30-year-old Djokovic struck his shots with precision and recorded 26 winners to improve his head-to-head advantage to 12-2 against world number 20 Nishikori. Earlier in the day, Canada's Milos Raonic booked a second-round meeting with third seed Grigor Dimitrov, defeating Argentina's Nicolas Kicker 6-3, 6-2. Frenchman Luca Pouille, meanwhile, crashed out after a 6-2, 6-3 defeat by compatriot Benoit Paire.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On to your weather forecast tonight. We can expect temperatures to vary between 21 and 31 degrees Celsius across the island over the next 24 hours. However, despite warm temperatures, the country can expect some thunder showers during the afternoon, particularly in areas of western and southern provinces. Meanwhile, rainfall of 100 millimeters can be expected in central, Sabragamo, Uva and eastern provinces and in Galle, Matra, Polonnaruwa, Kalutara and Puttalam districts. With that, let's take a look at your city-by-city forecast. Before we go, we'd like to leave you with visuals of the Bovatanna Dam, which is located in the central province of Sri Lanka. The dam was built in June of 1981 and is used primarily for irrigation. There is also a 40 megawatt power station which is constructed 5,800 feet downstream for hydroelectric power generation. Hope you enjoy and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.